The 33rd annual Boise Pride Fest is in the books, with a few edits to a few chapters. Days before the festival kicked off, there was backlash for one of the events scheduled for Sunday. They called it Drag Kids, a show for kids 11 to 18 who wanted to express themselves in drag. And the publicity that came from that revelation came from across the country. Mostly it came from the form of vitriol sent by those opposed to exposing minors to what they perceived as a highly sexual nightclub kind of performance happening in the middle of a Sunday stage in a public park. Sponsors began polling their participation, beginning with Zion's Bank on Wednesday. Several names followed over the next couple of days, and that anger and outrage came fast and furiously at first. But Boise Pride Executive Director Donald Williamson told us the vast majority of the festival sponsors did nothing. They didn't waver, they just weathered the storm. And the pushback meant this year's Boise Pride Fest was one for the ages. They had more booths than ever before. They had more parade floats than ever before. And more people participated than they've ever had in their 33-year history.
Like, our rep estimate is 60,000 plus, but it was definitely busier. Yeah. A lot more people.
How many sponsors did you have going in?
Just under like 90.
90. And so then a percentage of that, or do you know a number, how many said, take our name off?
25% maybe.
Okay.
If that maybe. I mean, not that many.
25%, that's a big number.
I think there was so much hype around it. There was, like those groups that were kind of pushing it. They were trying to make people think that they got like half. I mean, it wasn't in the grand scheme of it. And financially, as of right now, we have not lost $1.
That's my next question.
Yep.
Did you win or lose on this?
Like, we didn't win. It's not a competition. We don't do this to, I would say we won because the event was like successful. No one got hurt. It was safe and everybody had an amazing time. And it was so good to see everybody just like get to be. I have sponsors that were emailing me Friday night and Saturday of the festival saying we want to sponsor.
Because of the controversy?
Yeah. Just to like show up that we're here for you, like we're there for this community. Like I said on stage Sunday, it sucks that historically there's always these really dark moments where there's just such hatred and vitriol that comes out, and like the one bright side out of that is that it brings out the complete opposite of that throughout that. You just got to kind of weather that storm a bit, and you see all these organizations and community members and businesses, some that you didn't even know before, had no contacts, and they're probably going to be long-term partners with us moving forward. It's been it's been overwhelming in a good way.
I was going to say, it is kind of a win then.
Oh, absolutely. For this community though,
Why not just call it something else? The event.
Oh, why should that matter, honestly? Like the name change wouldn't, yeah, that cracks me up. If anything, I would have liked to have changed maybe the description to be a little more thorough, but we shouldn't have to change the name of the event itself. They were dressing up in drag. The problem comes with those who misinterpret or preach about drag being something that it isn't, and then trying to weaponize it by using kids as a pawn for whatever agenda it is they're trying to, move forward.
What did you learn about this community?
That it's an amazing community. Like, the support they have, like, I was so happy to see this community show up and show out for this festival, and show them that they're not going to back down to this hatred.
They're still collecting numbers, like waiting for estimates from Boise Police to gauge how many people actually showed up for the 3-day event. And they're also waiting for an invoice to know how much they had to pay for security, added or otherwise, how much that's going to cost them. Before the festival began, they budgeted for about $30,000 to $35,000. But they did pull in roughly $27,000 in donations from those water jugs at the entrance. You pass by as you got in, the QR codes, PayPal, all of that. A whole lot more than they expected this year. So yeah, Boise Pride Fest ended up in the black this year, in public and in pecuniary support, except those 5 kids who signed up to perform. It wasn't a win for them. All of this over 5 kids, 3 of whom were 17, 18, and 19, Williamson tells us. All of them signed up with parent permission. The 11-year-old is going to go on stage with their mother. And if they'd called it a pageant, would we even have this conversation at this point? Because I get it. There's a connotation associated with drag, just like there's a connotation associated with gun enthusiast. But as Donald said, isn't skewing the name of something to make it fit societal norms kind of what brought us the bigotry against LGBTQ people in the first place? It's worth pointing out, this wasn't even a homegrown controversy. Back on September 6th, Christopher Rufo tweeted about the plans for a drag kids event at Boise Pride. An hour later, the Idaho Freedom Foundation jumped in, drawing attention to Boise's Mayor, Lauren McLean. And if the name Chris Rufo sounds familiar, it should. To borrow a phrase, he is the conflict entrepreneur who brought critical race theory into the mainstream conversation across this country by claiming this law school level academic scholarship was infiltrating every aspect of society. It wasn't. Rufo mentioned sponsors in his tweet, and shortly after so did others, including the state chair of the GOP, all wanting people to put pressure on sponsors to pull their support from the festival. And then there were others who were also touting members of the Proud Boys are going to show up in force to do what exactly? Well, the picture is certainly suggestive. Ultimately, they didn't show up in hundreds or at all. And ultimately, this wasn't really even about a drag show or in reality a costume/talent show for kids. This is about what you're willing to believe. These claims of sexualizing children and grooming came from the same voices who wanted you to believe an election was stolen, who wanted you to believe Canadians were voting in those elections in Idaho. The same voices who wanted you to believe our teachers were indoctrinating our children, teaching critical race theory to toddlers, who wanted you to believe our librarians were pushing pornography onto children. The same voices who wanted you to believe a convicted rapist was a good guy, and it was perfectly fine for a 38-year-old legislator to have a sexual relationship with a teenage State House intern. And now they want you to believe a dress-up lip sync contest is sexualizing and grooming children. Well, many did. Nearly 24 sponsors did. Businesses who those same voices say were used as pawns during the pandemic, who were supposed to be independent and not shamed into shutting down to help control the spread of a virus during a world health crisis. Well, they were apparently okay to be subjected to the rage cycle on social media, which is why it's worth asking, was it really about protecting the kids or pushing a political agenda?